So I am extremely honored, delighted to have Mr. Suhail Seth on today's episode. It's really nice because Mr. Seth has no reason to appear on this episode, but it's like character is what you do for someone who can never pay you back. And we are lucky to have a man of great character, Mr. Suhail Seth, join us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Seth, you are known as a man of different hats. Many people know you through different things. You write books, you write columns, you're an advertising professional. But for me, as an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur primarily. And it's really lovely when I read about your advertising journey as an advertising professional, how you started from Response to Ogilvy to Equus. Am I pronouncing it right?
Equus.
Equus. Could you please tell us some moments of your journey which helped you define your career as an advertising professional? How did it go?
So the first thing is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you must come to terms with the fact that you will fail. So you have to discount that. You have to discount failure, you have to discount rejection. You also have to discount the fact that you don't necessarily have to work long hours, but you have to work strategically. And those were the three underpinnings that I believed in. I always believe that people may or may not be successful, but what is more important is, did they try? Did they do it with integrity, with purpose, with sincerity, with honesty? And that's how I've lived my life. So I took a huge gamble when I left a company like Peregrine to start our own agency with my brother. We had no money in the bank. We had 12,000 rupees. It could have gone either way. But that's a risk we took. And, it's high risk, high yield. Low risk, low yield. So you make those choices, and I'm glad we made those choices. And has the journey always been smooth? No, no journey is. Has it been without its fair share of, anger, rejection? Of course it's been. But you always look at the bigger picture. See, the important thing is, everyone says, oh, it's not the means but the end. No, it is also the means. It is not the destination, it is also the journey. If your journey can be painless, if your journey can be with integrity, if your journey can be of sincerity, that journey is equally important rather than just the destination.
I agree with that. So, as far as your journey is concerned, so you come from a family of businessmen. I mean,
Yes.
And but that was a different thing. It's a chemical manufacturing.
And we never wanted to get into business. We saw what West Bengal did to business people. We saw the advent of the Naxalite movement. We saw how the communists ruined Bengal. How my late father was ghirawed over and over again for no rhyme or reason. These were lazy people who weren't willing to work. The workers were kind of stoked, the fires were stoked by irresponsible leaders, so-called leaders from the Communist Party. And, we didn't want to play that game. And I didn't want to be in a position where I have to suck up to some bloody bureaucrat or some goddamn boiler inspector, because that is not the life I wanted. I saw how much my father suffered. And my father suffered because he's a decent man. And I've always believed that we have increasingly made India a difficult place for decent people, for people to do business decently, for people to work diligently, for people to work cleanly. It's almost as if corruption is the byword. It's strange that in this country we say, oh, he's an honest minister. He should be honest. So we have almost made that as a yardstick and something that needs to be put as a feather in someone's cap.
So tell me about your first experience when you started with Response. Was it?
Yeah, and the late Ram Ray was the founder, the owner, outstanding man. I've often said this publicly and privately, of course. Whatever I've learned, and I've learned a lot, is thanks to Ram. I learned tangential thinking thanks to him. I learned the courage to speak up to your clients thanks to him. He was not the kind of guy who would walk into a room and agree with everything the client said. We had our own prestige, we had our own dignity, and we didn't succumb. We didn't crawl when we were asked to walk. So Ram Ray brought all of that to the table. He brought a lot of scholarship. He was a great reader, and he was multifariously talented. He was the true polymath. I've always said, if he had lived longer, his contribution to India would have been far greater. He was interested in typography, in music, in films, in literature, and advertising. So he was a great guy.
And then you moved to Ogilvy and Mather.
Yeah, then I moved to Ogilvy. Derek O'Brien was my creative partner. Ogilvy was brilliant. Then I joined Peregrine. Then I'd had enough of the finance world and said, let's start our own agency. And that's when my brother and I started Equus. And in 2006, I was tired of advertising. I was tired of the way clients were treating the agencies. I was tired of the way agencies were allowing themselves to be stomped upon by clients. And I said, to hell with it. And I started my consulting firm, Counselage.
That is true. And I have read about it that advertising is indeed something which burns people out. And
No, it didn't burn me out. That's again a bit of a hyperbole. Oh, it burns you out. Anything burns you out if you're allowed to burn you out. You know, I've never said that I used to work long hours. I've never worked hard in that sense. You see, in India, the definition of hard work is you put in 18 hours. Mules work hard, not human beings. Human beings should work smart.
that is true. So you shifted from advertising in 2003, and since then you've been building Counselage.
Yeah, 2006. 2003 we started the company, but it was primarily 2006.
And since then you've been, sir, I mean, in positive limelight when you're talking about connections are concerned, when you're talking about connections with industrialists, people in the film industry, and how much do you value?
I don't value connections. I don't see them as A, connections. I see them as friends. And B, you know, I've always had friends. I mean, some friends may be more successful than the others, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't take away my friendship with the people who are seemingly less successful in other people's mind. For me, they are friends. I don't really care how much money they have because they're not going to leave it to me. So the thing is, you have to often look at areas of interest, or you have to look at things from a perspective of not how much can you take from someone. It's how much together can you create. And I'm blessed that I've had excellent friends. Many friends of mine are much, much older. I have friends who range today, as we speak, between ages of, say, 19 to 97. But that doesn't take it away. I mean, I learned so much from, let's say, a Mr. Rasgotra, who was our former foreign secretary, who was 97. As much as I would learn from my 21-year-old nephew. And he tells me things that I wouldn't know. So, you know, it's not as if you... See, the problem, Nishant, is the world has decided, oh, you must have connections and network. That's bullshit. Okay. Connections and network are for telephones, not for human beings.
So you don't consider connections as connections. They're more towards
the day you consider connections as connections, you will not be connected to that connection.
Okay. So why I'm asking is this, because I'm an entrepreneur. I've been building a company. I started in the first year of college itself, sir. And since then I've done some business. This is my second company I'm building. And all I hear from experienced entrepreneurs is that you have to make real connections.
No.
When I say connections, they're not transactional connections, but friendships, warm.
So I wouldn't use the word connection. So whoever's told you it's a connection in itself is doing you great injustice. I would not talk about connection. I would say you build great relationships. Whether it's transactional or relational, that's separate. But you don't call them connections. I mean, that in itself is debasing the relationship that you've built. I mean, why would you call someone, oh, he's my connection, mere paas bade connections hain? That's rubbish. That's a typical Delhi way of speaking. Luckily, we were born and raised in Calcutta, so we have a greater refinement and sense of elegance when we use words.
Yeah, city of culture. I'm from Lucknow, by the way, but
see, tehzeeb, which is missing in India.
As an advertising veteran, what would you recommend entrepreneurs of today who are building a company in this day and age? Because advertising is in today's parlance called customer acquisition. So how would you like them to go with the customer acquisition strategy as far as new age companies are going? Because so, you were doing this in 80s, 90s?
Old advertising is dead. Long format advertising is gone. Print advertising, television advertising will disappear. You will be where the consumer wants you to be. If I want you to be on my mobile and you aren't, that's your problem, not mine. If your app doesn't load properly, it's your problem, not mine. Consumers will have far greater choice. Remember, we came and we emerged in the 90s from a license Raj, where the Bajajs forced us into starvation and into famine because they were licensed to produce utter rubbish. It's only when Hero came that Hero changed the two-wheelers market for India. So where there is competition, there is greater consumer concern. The consumer will always be the king. You have to decide how much from that consumer you will draw. But again, my advice to you would be, don't call it consumer acquisition. You're not going with a shopping bag into some godforsaken market. Call it getting customers or creating customer relationships.
I'd like to come back to that example. Why did you draw parallel between Bajaj and Hero? Because Hero was there for centuries. I read their book.
No, Hero was not there for centuries. Then obviously it's the wrong book you've read.
It's a biography of Brijmohan Lal Munjal.
It's not a biography, which is why I worry about young people. It is the making of Hero. It's about the four brothers, and it's more about how Hero Honda came to be, which is now Hero MotoCorp. It travels through Hero cycles. It then comes to Hero Motors two-wheelers. So it's not that Hero two-wheelers were there way before. The motorcycle business, the Hero group got into around the 80s. Yeah. So it's not, they've been there forever. But Bajaj were there before. And Bajaj were the jokers who created and took advantage of the license Raj like no one else did. Much like Hindustan Motors did. Much like Premier Padmani did. So you needed more companies to come in order for customers to have a choice, and then Bajaj and all up the game. They up the game only when customers force them to up the game. So I'm saying don't make customers angry. Don't make customers regretful. And certainly don't make customers leave you.
All right. So I've heard I've heard a saying called once an advertiser, always an advertiser. So, and that certainly seems true when I look at you, because you, even though have moved on from advertising in a sense, but you are a very, active person on social media. You're a popular figure, public figure. You've not left public life, of course. You're still open. So, how do you see these advertising trends? Okay, if you really liked Hero from 90s, my father was the DGM at that time. Which company resembles that advertising spirit of the country, as Hero did, or as the company?
There are so many. Amul
would still be, an old example. A new age company.
No.
Really like?
Again, you're mistaken. This is why I worry about you young guys. There is no such thing new and old. It is relevant or irrelevant, contemporary or not. Does Amul exist today? The answer is yes. Is Amul a market leader? The answer is yes. How can you say, it's an old company, therefore irrelevant?
No, is there any new age company which inspires you?
I don't even understand what you guys mean by new age.
Something new, which has come like 9 or 10 years ago.
You tell me, what is new age? Is Google new age? Google is 21 years old. Yeah. Is Facebook new age? I don't know. A lot of people like you, young people, will say, Facebook is new age. These are sobriquets which are given by unintelligent people. My advice to you, young man, is remove them from your head. There are companies that are good, there are companies that are bad. Is Adani new age or old age?
I think it's pretty old.
But they are competing. Is Jio old or new?
Jio is new, but
the company is old. So that's what I'm saying. These are silly examples.
No, but what I meant was, there's Zomato and there's Swiggy. And they're both new age companies in today's startup parlance. And Zomato is known for its voice with a soul. Swiggy
I don't think so. I think Zomato has performed miserably as far as communication is concerned. You remember many years ago they ran billboards saying MCBC, and where they said butter chicken for BC, MC, trying to use abbreviations of common abuse, and they got slammed. More recently, the issue that they had with the delivery boy, who claimed that he was actually insulted by this lady in Bangalore, and the handling. So I'm not a great fan of Zomato's. No, not at all, and I don't need to be. I don't care about the company. I don't order food, so I really don't care. Point I'm making is, communication-wise, are they smart? My answer is no. Who's smart? Booking.com is smart. because their customer relationship management is superb. The Taj. Now, the Taj is a 115-year-old brand. Would you say it's old or new? I don't know. They're opening 50 hotels now. To my mind, the Taj last week, when they reopened the Chambers and when they used a lot of digital play, to my mind, did a lot more as a company. So, my advice to you, Nishant, is look at companies from only two perspectives: relevance and reputation. Are you relevant to a consumer? You will only be relevant to a consumer when you offer something that a consumer needs. I'll give you one mantra, my friend, that will stay with you for the rest of your life. Consumers don't buy brands. We think that consumers buy brand. Consumers buy benefits. You don't buy surf, you buy the whitest wash. You don't buy a hero motorcycle. You buy what in your mind represents the finest quality and safety. You don't buy Rolls Royce because it's got 4 wheels. Every goddamn car has 4 wheels. You buy Rolls Royce because it has very low, in fact, negligible, zero social risk. All brands are judged in our minds without us telling people across social risk, self-image risk, and performance risk. Let me give you an example. If you take a Matchbox, which has Ritz-Carlton on it, so it's from the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and you put it on a table, there's no social risk. People say, yaar, Ritz-Carlton ho kya hai? There is no self-image risk. And there is certainly no performance risk. If one match doesn't light, your life doesn't come to an end. Now compare it to a Mercedes-Benz. If a Mercedes-Benz stalls or stops in the middle of the road, what is your social risk? Nothing. You're in a Mercedes. What is your self-image risk? Nothing. What is your performance risk? Huge. Because what have you done? You have evaluated that brand on the basis of performance. So that's the risk that we consumers, or most consumers, all consumers, subconsciously factor in when they're choosing brands. And my worry is that today's advertisers, today's advertising agencies, today's marketing brats are not even understanding this, because as a country, we have stopped reading. Because as a country, we are less academic in our approach. Because as a country, we are more into jugaad than into genuine knowledge. That's my worry.
So when you talk about reading, reading is globally facing through an existential crisis because of platforms like podcasting. People are looking, like I read a lot, I have been reading, and I started this podcast called I Read This Book. But when I started it, I found out that nobody gives a shit about books. I'm so sorry. Nobody cares about books at all. And that's when I figured out that it's not a problem that we are facing in our
No,
silo.
but you know what I'm worried about is you're making all these sweeping statements without any research. And now let me tell you where you're wrong. A, book sales in the world have increased, not declined. B, book sales in India have increased by 30%. C, go to Amazon and see whether their book sales have increased or decreased. Increased. So please don't make the, yaar koi nahi padh raha. Because you're doing a podcast and because 20 other jokers are only interested in watching television, that doesn't mean the world has stopped reading. Look at New York Times. New York Times has trebled profit because their digital avatar has done so well. Why? If people weren't reading, let me give you one thing. Good content is valued even more today than ever before. And the reason is, as you said, there are too many platforms. I want to sift the wheat from the chaff. I want to sift the fake from the genuine. I want to sift the intellectual from the rustic. So it's very important for me to get great content. So content and good content will always have a premium.
So you think reading is not taking a backseat?
Not at all.
I mean, people, it's not a trend that...
Not at all. It may be a trend with you, not with you, but with 20 other people that you know, not at all. Let me tell you, I have a 15-month daughter. We offered her toys, this, that. Now, I hope, obviously, thankfully, she's gone on me and my wife. She's not interested. She's interested in picture books. She's interested in reading, and that's the kind of culture we want to build. You can't force someone. And let me tell you, Nishant, Because we are reading less, if some of those people who are reading less, are the problem. If you don't read, you don't have context. If you don't have context, you don't have purpose. If you don't have purpose, your life is meaningless.
And what about this genuine trend? So human history has always been towards books. Books had been the fulcrum of knowledge acquisition since time immemorial. Now people are acquiring knowledge through audio, podcasts, and they're not reading, but they're trying to acquire knowledge through audio and visual medium. So what do you think about that?
Are you a vegetarian?
I'm a vegetarian.
So when you have lunch, you have dal, you have one sabji, two sabjis, you may have raita, all are coexisting. Will I say, no, Nishant Mittal is a vegetarian, therefore only a dal eater? No. People are consuming across platforms. You're doing this podcast here, fine, we could have done it over Zoom, we could have done it in so many ways, but we want a face-to-face interaction. So please don't say that, oh, everyone has moved. People are now looking at multiple options. You know, I used to say earlier, there are many people who can read 3 books at a time. Today, people are looking at 3 devices. People are consuming knowledge wherever they can get it. So it's not key. There's been migration from books to podcasts or from podcasts to television. All are coexisting. And I'm only going on fact. There is no decline in reading. There is no decline in book sales.
Sir, that's slightly debatable.
It's not debatable. Then debate with me. Give me figures. See, I don't like a debate without facts. So you see, how many publishers, call up HarperCollins and ask them in India what the situation is. Call up Rowley Books. Call up Penguin. See the trend of Jaipur Literature Festival. It started with 8,000 people. Today, in this JLF, which was virtual, there were 4.8 million viewers at any given time, digitally. What are you guys saying? Literature is there. Please don't say, oh yeah, because I don't read, koi nahi padhta. This is all rubbish. So, and I'm a great believer. In fact, I would urge you to find out these details and come back to me.
And I will. What about Jaipur Literature Fest, sir? I mean, do you think Jaipur Literature Fest or even book sales for that matter are indicative of a cultural stance? I mean, do you think...
I don't know what you mean by cultural stance, but...
let's say you talked about reading, right?
Yeah, but they're indicative of a habit. You know, reading is not a cultural stance. My other advice to you guys will be, young guys, don't use words that you don't understand or complicated phrases. What is cultural stance? Jaipur Literature Festival is a literature festival. Ask me, is the festival popular? Answer is yes. Why is it popular? Because, as I said earlier, more and more people want content. Is the content around literature? 80% of it is, because there's also music, there's also performing arts. We are seeing an increase. People are willing to pay. People are now registering for JLF. Earlier it was all free. Now why are people registering? And remember one thing, when you pay for something, you value it. The fact that people are paying means they see value. Now it could be bragging rights, it could be social pressure, it could be peer acceptance. Fine. I don't care. A lot of the times I used to joke with people saying, half the guys who read Harvard Business Review carry it but never read it.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
But that's in life. Yeah. That's also in life. We wear brands that we may not have an idea of. So, I don't care. I'm only seeing absolute numbers. Increase, yes. Decline, yes. Worry. If there's an increase, I don't worry. And look, you're right. There will always be people who will say, who reads nowadays? Who gives a shit? I don't care. Because to my mind, those aren't the idiots we have to worry about. The idiots will always be negative. And they will always tell you, Nishant, but I don't read, almost as if it's a badge of honor.
No, so when I referred to this, I don't read, I was actually reading Nassim Taleb. Nassim Taleb is an author I read.
He's a very dear friend of mine.
Oh my God. I am a huge fan of Nassim Taleb.
And he's been at JLF thrice.
Yeah, I know. So I was hearing him speak and he was talking about the trends of reading. And he expressed this as a cultural shift. People are experiencing knowledge through mediums which are not directly or indirectly related to reading.
The word should be also.
Also, okay.
Now I'll give you a small example. Are you fond of Hindustani classical music?
I'm more of a rock guy, but yeah, I admire it. Also,
The other problem in India is no one answers a bloody question directly. I asked you a direct question. No, but I'm also fond of rock. Are you fond of Hindustani class? No, you're not. Now, if you watch Bandish Bandits, outstanding. Now, it's outstanding in every which way. Will you get an appreciation of classical music? Yes. After that, will you become a singer? I don't know. But does it allow you to appreciate? I still believe some of the documentaries that are shown on a National Geographic or on a BBC or well, I'm not talking about the Meghan Markle stuff, but if you see it on the PBS system in America, great stuff. But the tragedy is, hum wo dekh hi nahi rahe. We are not even looking at it. Because we believe, are yaar, what is Nishant reading? Acha, I must also read that. And my only advice to young people, when I used to hire, I would ask two questions. One, what is the last book you read? Number two, what is your relationship with your parents? If a guy can't read, I don't care for him or her. If the guy's relationship with his parents is flawed, then he's a flawed human being. No matter what the circumstances. Now you might say, old world, this is old age, new age, I don't care. For me, reading is very important. And for me, people reading is equally important. That's what I am. And I'm not looking for bloody popular support. And I genuinely believe that people don't appreciate the good that can come out of reading.
I agree. I mean, I sincerely love reading, and this is the reason why I started the podcast.
Excellent.
And I definitely would. So, which book would you recommend to somebody who's just starting out reading, or who's battling whether he should go for podcast?
Read Tuesdays with Maury.
Which album? Any other recommendation?
Read Get to the Top by Sohail Seth.
I'll definitely read it and review it and send the review to you, sir.
Excellent.
And I wish I could ask you more questions about how I could build my startup better, but
For that, will not be a podcast, it'll be a fee cast.
yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I would love to draw out that value and pay for it. Thank